Every season of America's Got Talent introduces someone who grabs the spotlight for a few unforgettable minutes. But every now and then, a performer steps onto that stage carrying years of hard work that nobody watching at home ever gets to see. That's exactly what happened when 15-year-old Nene Royale walked out in front of the judges. At first glance, she looked shy, nervous, and almost overwhelmed. But what happened next stunned millions of people around the world. And once you know the story behind that moment, her audition becomes even more inspiring. Let's go back to July 7, 2026. It was the night that changed everything. Nene walked onto the America's Got Talent stage with a quiet smile, laughing at her own nerves. She told the judges she was turning 16 the very next day, and suddenly the entire audience was singing happy birthday to a teenage girl who had traveled all the way from Phuket, Thailand with her father standing proudly backstage. When they asked about her dream, she answered with complete honesty. She wanted to become a superstar, touring the world with her music. It sounded like the kind of dream thousands of teenagers have. But was she really just another hopeful contestant? The answer came seconds later. She picked up her electric guitar. In an instant, the shy teenager disappeared. Standing in her place was a fearless rock performer. She launched into a powerful version of the Cranberries' classic song "Zombie," filling the theater with raw energy. She growled through the lyrics, attacked every guitar riff with confidence, and pulled the audience into every chorus. It felt less like a school student performing and more like someone who had spent decades on stage. The room couldn't believe what it was seeing. But here's the strange part. This performance didn't appear out of nowhere. The judges were just as shocked as everyone watching at home. Sofia Vergara called the performance spectacular and said she could go far in the competition. Howie Mandel looked at her and simply said, "You're a rock star." Mel B loved both her voice and her guitar skills, calling them a perfect combination. Even Simon Cowell, famous for his brutally honest opinions, praised the rough, authentic quality of her voice and said those imperfect edges actually made the performance stronger. 4 judges. 4 yes. 1 unforgettable audition. But here's what almost nobody knew. This wasn't the hardest audience Nene had ever faced. Long before television cameras arrived, she was already performing every weekend at Phuket's Naka night market. Every Saturday and Sunday evening, from 6 until 10, she stood with her guitar among food stalls, busy shoppers, loud traffic, and endless distractions. Imagine pouring your heart into every song while people walk past without even looking at you. Some stopped for a few seconds. Most didn't. There's a special kind of loneliness that comes from singing to people who never planned to listen. But that experience gave her something priceless. And that's where her real advantage began. When you've learned how to capture the attention of strangers who have every reason to ignore you, performing for a television audience suddenly doesn't feel nearly as intimidating. Those long nights at the market became the training ground that nobody saw. Back home, people already knew exactly who she was. Her fans called her the "Angel of Rock," and dedicated fan pages proudly referred to her as Phuket's own rock star. The timid girl standing in front of the judges and the fearless musician entertaining crowded streets had always been the same person. The television audience simply met her for the first time. But one detail makes her journey even more remarkable. She never had formal guitar lessons. There was no expensive music school. No famous mentor. No private instructor guiding every step. Nene taught herself almost everything. She watched videos online, listened carefully, practiced over and over, and slowly trained her hands to play exactly what she heard. She first picked up a guitar when she was only 6 or 7 years old, depending on which interview you hear. Either way, she started long before most children had even discovered what they loved doing. Hours turned into years. Small improvements became incredible skill. But just how good did she become? The performance on America's Got Talent only revealed part of what she could do. "Zombie" wasn't even the most difficult song in her collection. She had already played challenging rock classics like Deep Purple's Burn, impressing experienced musicians who couldn't believe someone so young had that level of control. She could move effortlessly from emotional ballads to aggressive rock solos. That versatility caught the attention of Enya Music, which signed her as a featured artist while she was still in school. Many professional musicians spend an entire career hoping for that kind of recognition. Nene achieved it before finishing high school. And the internet noticed too. Her audience kept growing. Hundreds of thousands of followers became millions across different social media platforms. More than 3 million people eventually followed her music online. Those weren't empty numbers. They represented fans from all over the world discovering a teenager who had quietly built her career long before mainstream television noticed her. But perhaps the biggest surprise is this. America believed it had discovered a hidden talent. The truth was very different. Thailand had already been cheering for Nene for years. In October 2023, she finished second in the respected overdrive guitar contest, often called the country's guitar battle. Judges praised her for performing at a level far beyond her age. 2 years later, she earned recognition as an outstanding player at the King Power Band competition, proving she wasn't simply popular online. She had already appeared on the Thai television program Super 10, performing alongside established musicians while most teenagers were still nervous about singing in front of classmates. So when she boarded the plane to America, she wasn't chasing her first opportunity. She was bringing years of experience onto an even bigger stage. But there's something many viewers still missed. Sometimes success looks sudden only because nobody witnessed the years of preparation beforehand. Many people spend years working quietly before one single moment changes everything. That's exactly what happened here. Millions saw one performance and assumed she appeared overnight. In reality, they were watching the result of countless hours of practice, performances, competitions, and determination. And then there's the song she chose. Why did that performance feel so powerful? The answer lies in the story behind Zombie. Most people know Zombie as a legendary rock song. Fewer know why it was written. The Cranberries released it in 1994 after singer Dolores O'Riordan was devastated by the 1993 Warrington bombing in England. 2 bombs killed 3-year-old Jonathan Ball and 12-year-old Tim Perry while injuring dozens more. Dolores poured her grief and anger into the song, rejecting violence and making it clear that ordinary Irish people should never be defined by terrorism. It wasn't written simply as entertainment. It was written as a protest. And suddenly Nene's performance carried far more emotional weight than many people realized. But the story doesn't end there. Think about the image for a moment. A smiling teenager, just one day away from her 16th birthday, stood under bright stage lights singing one of the most emotional protest songs in modern music. Whether she fully understood every historical detail or simply connected with its emotional power, her performance introduced a new generation to a message that refuses to disappear. Music has a strange way of crossing borders, generations, and cultures. And that's exactly what happened here. The song itself has refused to fade away. After Dolores O'Riordan passed away in 2018, many expected Zombie to slowly become a classic remembered only by longtime fans. Instead, it grew even bigger. The song crossed billions of streams and views, became a stadium anthem for Irish rugby supporters, and found new audiences through covers like the one recorded by Bad Wolves. Even Colin Perry, the father of Tim Perry, one of the boys killed in the bombing that inspired the song, described Zombie as a powerful and truthful tribute that transformed unimaginable grief into remembrance. That's an extraordinary legacy. And then something remarkable happened at exactly the right time. Just as Nene's audition was spreading across social media, the Cranberries announced the release of a previously unheard live concert recording from London's Astoria in 1994, featuring Zombie, performed during the band's early years. It was an incredible coincidence. On one side of the world, a legendary band was bringing an old performance back to life. On the other side, a teenage guitarist from Thailand was introducing millions of young viewers to the very same song. Different generations. Different countries. The same message carried forward through music. That's what makes this story so special. Songs can outlive the people who created them. They travel across oceans, languages, and decades until someone new discovers them and gives them another voice. Nene has now become part of that long tradition, joining countless artists who have kept Zombie alive for new audiences. But perhaps her biggest chapter hasn't even been written yet. Her America's Got Talent audition was never supposed to be the finish line. Those 4 yeses simply opened the next door. As the competition continues, she's still chasing the dream she shared so honestly on stage. Away from the television cameras, she's writing original music and preparing her first EP, making the exciting transition from performing other people's songs to creating music entirely her own. That's often the hardest step for any artist. And it could become the moment that defines her career. When you look back at everything, the journey feels almost unbelievable. A little girl teaches herself guitar by watching videos online. She spends years playing to distracted crowds at a busy night market. She quietly collects awards in her home country. She builds millions of followers before most of the world even knows her name. Then she walks onto one of the biggest talent show stages on earth, with her father proudly watching from the wings, and delivers a performance that captures the attention of millions. The shy teenager and the fearless rock performer were never two different people. They were always the same person. The world simply needed time to notice. And if her story so far has taught us anything, it's that the loudest success usually begins in the quietest places. Her audition may have introduced her to the world, but it feels much more like the beginning than the ending. The biggest stage of her life could still be waiting just around the corner.